خريج من جامعة اليمامة في سنة 2017. راح أحاول إني أقسم 30 minutes اللي أعطوني إياها بطريقة إني I cover my educational career، بس بركز على البروفيشنال كارير، خصوصا فترتي حاليا مع الفاينانس تراك في الجي 20. طبعا يهمني كثير اني اتكلم عن الجي 20 وراح اني اعطي مقدمه، بعدين راح اتطرق specifically my roles and responsibilities. في البدايه طبعا انا تخرجت من الباتشلر في تخصص business administration، concentration كان حقي in finance initially. بعدين بعد ما بديت اخذ electives I decided اني to take accounting as an area that I believe is very important for people in the finance industry to know about, given that it all starts in the balance sheet and in the income statements and the financials. Then as an analyst you analyze and take it forward in your company or whenever you work in any sector. One of the major milestones in my journey with Yamamah University is, as Mr. Saud already mentioned, having the opportunity to participate in an international event, the G200 for Youth, which is a great gathering for leading experts, academia, but most importantly, كانت for colleagues from Ivy universities around the world. I believe from that experience at Yamamah, when I was given the opportunity, I think it was like the first time that I started that in my career I should be looking for the greater scope, looking internationally and other best practices worldwide, what the other countries are doing in finance and in other sectors. So this was like a great opportunity that was given me to Yamamah, and I believe that it's one of the main things that led me to my place now at the G20. طبعا the scope of the participation at the G200 event with the university was to go and sit in round tables, share and build business relationships, but also share ideas with people from different sectors. But I was specifically participating in the economic and finance round table, which basically in it I got the opportunity to work on an article which was later published. The article that I've worked on was the scope I think I was muted for a while, but I hope you kind of heard me. Yeah, I was talking about the article that I published, which was the first article that I wrote my career, which was at the university level. It was around the nationalization of the private sector and how to, what are the initiatives that governments are encouraged to do to tackle the national youth unemployment in the private sector. But now fast forwarding to my co-op. So I did my co-op at SABIC, which of course is one of the leading multinational chemical manufacturing companies, and also currently a subsidiary of Saudi Aramco. I was offered at the time the chance to work at SABIC's enterprise risk management department. Basically, the focus is to do an annual risk assessment, which will take the span of the whole year on the SBUs or the strategic unit and SABIC difference. So at the time, I remember that they have a strategic business unit in polymers and metal. What the role that I did at the time, I was part of a team. I was given the opportunity to at least get some of the experience in how to do full risk management and assessment process. It basically starts with awareness, annual awareness to the different strategic business units. Then it goes into identifying the risks, and then the risk analysis, evaluation, and how we can treat this risk. And later it will be like the monitoring process, and finally to communicate and consult, and making sure that this risk is avoidable in the future. But also, I think one of the main things that I learned during my time in SABIC, that they paid an important attention to their business continuity, given if it's whether it's a reactive or whether it's preventive. So if it's preventive before, God forbid, like a crisis happens that affects one of the strategic business units, they would have like an action plan that they can immediately get to and draw from some of the actions that they can implement to mitigate this crisis, or it can be also in a recovery phase when the impact happens and you have to deal with it hands-on at the time. So this is basically a short period with the SABIC that I was exposed to. Then in late 2016, I graduated with my bachelor degree, and I had the opportunity to work with BSF, Banque Saudi Fransi. It was a great opportunity for me because it was my first full-time job, and I joined directly into the wealth management group. Usually, I believe nowadays, people, when they go into the banking sector, there are certain development programs that takes you to rotation. But in my case, I joined directly into their wealth management group as a financial analyst. And I remember the interview process. I had 3 interviews, one of them with the HR, one of the direct manager, and one with the head of wealth management. So once I got the call that I had the job, you can imagine how it was like, for me, it was the right place to kick off a career. So basically what I did, as you know, and when we were studying, and when we are now studying finance, we are majoring in finance or business, but specifically finance. It's a field that ranges with so many topics in the field, and actually we might have it in college as a 1 chapter or 1 course, but in real life, you can like dedicate your whole life for it. If you decide to go into investments, or you have decided to go into credit, or you have decided to money markets, treasury, or corporate finance, it's all areas that are very different. But in my case, I was responsible for managing specifically the credit activities under the wealth management group. I was responsible for the central region, and I also provided support for Western and Eastern region. Basically, what I did in terms of the tasks or the day-to-day activities is mostly proposals will come in for clients that want facilities for different reasons, whether these facilities are for investments, for personal use, for an overdraft facility, which mainly for working capital or short-term expenses. So it was different, like different tabs you would get every day. My role is to take each client individually and do full review package. And this consists of strategy memo, seeing and studying the client in terms of the pricing that we will be given. Is the client cross-selling, meaning that it affects the pricing if the client has an existing and long relationship with a bank, and by cross-selling is that he has different products, or he's utilizing or using or benefiting from different products in the bank. So in other ways, this will increase the bank profitability overall, so they can grant the clients with a lower interest rate for these strategies. There's of course the financial statements, which I did the analysis for. It's important for any client. First rule when you get into credit is that you need to check the credit worthiness of a client. Will he pay back, or will she pay back, or will the entity pay back? So this is the most important thing. And the first, I would say the cover of that all of the situation of the clients is you can analyze it through its financial statement. And also I had the responsibility of checking the collateral which that will secure the loan. If there was a collateral, usually it was real estate, sometimes it's stocks. The clauses are different, and the terms are different if you are using a collateral as a real estate or using a collateral as the stocks, because stocks is more liquid. However, they are highly volatile, unlike the lands or real estate in general, which banks prefer. In addition, after I develop the full package, I go with the package and representing to a committee that will consist of mainly the department, and I will give the case on my client, why he deserve a loan, and what is the collateral. And after the loan is granted, the relationship doesn't stop until credit responsibilities to the client, because he will have an outstanding loans, and these outstanding loans need to be monitored quarterly and annually, and to check if the client is making the payments on time, if there is an overstepping, expired limits, any kind of discrepancies that may affect the ability of the client in repaying the loan. So I think this process is mostly standard across banks, with the differences whether you work in corporate, with management, or with the retail client. But it's the same process, but the scale maybe is the only thing that is different. So in 2019, I had the opportunity to join SAMA, the Saudi Arabian Monetary Authority, to be part of a team working on the finance track issues at the G20 presidency. So just before I get into my role and specific responsibilities and what I do with my involvement in the G20 presidency, I think it would be appropriate to start with an introduction of what is the G20 and its role in the global landscape. So I will be given an overview how the G20 works, what is the importance. But first, the G20, as simple as it can be defined, is a leading for major economies that usually they seek to develop global policies to address the issues that the world face. It is in the G20 there are 19 countries and plus the EU or the European Union, and the G20 have started back in 1999. During it was in the G7 meeting, they called for the establishment of G20, given that they felt that the G7 didn't have on the table all the that they have, the countries that have a systematic importance worldwide, like Saudi Arabia when it comes to oil, and their important role in giving stability and ensuring sustainable flow of energy. So in 1999 it started, but most people remember the G20 back in 2008, given the fact that it was the year that the G20 elevated from. So it was on a ministerial level, on a finance minister's level. So only people representing their countries were the finance ministers. So it was mostly on a level that is concerned primarily on finance and the economy. But in 2008, when the financial crisis hit in Washington, D.C., they decided that it's the time to alleviate the representation in the G20 and to have the states of government or the leaders and presidents of the governments of the G20 countries. And starting from then, it became known worldwide for producing policies that many countries around the world take in the national context and implement. So mainly the objectives of the G20 revolves around strengthening global economy, focusing on the reforms in international financial institutions, improve financial relations, which it was first we saw the great improvement in financial back in 2008 when the G20 mandated and established the Financial Stability Board to overlook the financial regulation that they have put forward as for due to the aftermath after the economic crisis. So this is the overall idea of what the G20 is, but what makes the G20 numbers one of the most important global and premier gatherings globally for policies and for initiatives that affect the world truly is that it represents 85%, the countries, the G20 represent 85% of global economy output. They make the 66% of the world population, 75% of international trade, and 80% of global investments. This is what makes the G20 an important platform for all of the countries around the world to participate in. There is something that I'm not sure if you heard of, but something called the Troika, the G20. So Saudi Arabia last year was part of the Troika as the presidency preceding to the current presidency. But now in this year we are we became the presidency back in December 2019, and next year we will give the flagship to Italy to continue, but we would remain as a Troika country. This Troika terminology is referring to the importance that each the country that will come after the country that will precede, they need to have a certain continuation in terms of policies to drive forward the initiatives that the GBFI put, or the G20 put forward. So as you can see in my title, my current title at the G20, I'm part of the finance track. So to give you a little more details on the mechanism of the G20, so starting from 2018, as I previously said, the G20 decided to introduce a new track. So it created another track called the Sherpa track. And the Sherpa track is mainly concerned with topics that are not related to finance and economy, topics that touch on development, energy sustainability, trade and investment, agriculture, employment, climate sustainability, while the finance track is mainly focused on financial and economic issues. And then, but each of the both tracks, they have over 50 meetings of ministers, foreign ministry, central bank governors around the year. So the G20. So once the Saudi Arabia took the flagship of the G20 in December 2019, we had over 50 ministerial and central bank governors meeting. This is when it comes to the finance track. And before that, and at the lower level, there is the working groups, which I will elaborate on now, which we have in the finance track, which I will focus on. There are different work groups, task forces. The work groups, we have financial regulation work group, framework working group, infrastructure, international financial architecture, international taxation, and global partnership for financial inclusion. As for their names, these groups have a mandate, and they set their own priorities at the beginning of each G20 presidency, and they deliver at the working group level. They draft their deliverables, they work on them on several meetings during the year. Then they submit their findings for endorsement of the ministers, and that eventually will go to the communique of the ministers and also of the leaders, which it's like a press release of what the countries have agreed on in terms of the initiatives and deliverables that they has been working on since the start of the presidency here. Also, there is an important role that international organizations play, such as the World Bank, the IMF, the OECD, the BIS. All of these international organizations, they work closely with each G20 presidency to make sure that the appropriate research and the appropriate policies are delivered in a way that can be mostly impactful. In terms of the Saudi presidency specifically, so this year's theme was to realize the opportunities of the 21st century. So Saudi Arabia have put forward a theme to realize opportunities for 21st century, but is also supported with aims included empowering people, shaping new frontiers, and also safeguarding the planet. So these priorities or these aims, below them will cascade different priorities that the working groups will take forward to deliver on. So in terms of the priorities in the finance track, so we have a range of very important and essential priorities around providing an access to opportunities for all. We have some priorities on the capital markets development, technology for infrastructure, and personally, my role and responsibility was throughout my time with the G20 Finance Track this year, have been blessed and entrusted with high-level responsibilities to represent the kingdom at international events. And this included full commitment. The team that we have and the G20 finance track are committed to not only participate but also arrange and make sure that all the technical content is reflecting our priorities at the highest level. I was also blessed to be actively participating in major national organization and platforms such as the Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development, the Financial Stability Board, the World Bank, and also I was representing and I was a member of the Financial Stability Board Working Group that worked toward publishing the FSB report on the evaluation of the effects of the financial regulatory reforms on SMEs. So this was in general my role and responsibilities that I had in like an overview the finance track. However, specifically, I was part of the team that was responsible to deliver on the activities of the Global Partnership for Financial Inclusion Working Group, which is, as I mentioned before, part of or one of the working groups under the finance track. And basically, financial inclusion or financial inclusion working groups start with you with like, what is it? What do we mean by financial inclusion? So financial inclusion is basically trying to make individuals and businesses to have access to useful, affordable financial products and services to meet their needs. Mostly the vulnerable and underserved groups around the world, they don't have the same luxury, or they don't have the means to have the appropriate access that they deserve in the financial services or the banking system. So the main objectives that we had or the GBFI working groups have on financial inclusion is to provide recommendations and also to share best practices. But one of the main objectives of the GBFI is to align its work with the UN's Sustainable Development Goals, which the group have adopted in 2015, and to make sure that our work in the group is aligned toward achieving these goals globally. So when it came to setting the financial inclusion priorities, will give you like in Japan's presidency, they had their priority on financial services for the elderly. So it gives you an idea of how a presidency sets its priorities. So mostly it focuses on different factors in its criteria. Factors include the global importance, the regional relevance, the national interests, and the added value. So for our presidency this year, we have took all of these factors into consideration, and we have successfully presented and introduced priorities that was welcomed by all the countries, and we saw recently tangible and very effective and informative deliverables which are published for policymakers to take on, and our priority, which is digital financial inclusion for youth, women, and SMEs. So our approach in developing these reports is basically to leverage new technologies to boost access for youth and women SMEs. But why we chose these specific segments is because the fact that among the 1.7 billion adults who still don't have financial system access worldwide, 30% of whom are young adults. So like we have 56% of youth unbanked compared to 72 of the adults. So there is a gap to be bridged, and this gives us an opportunity that we saw that addressing the topic of youth can be highly important at this day and age. And it's also in the national context, Saudi Arabia is, in terms of the G20, is the youngest country in terms of its population. So it even had a national context to the priority. So the main aim is to identify the policy options to advance digital financial inclusion of youth by seeing the causes of exclusion, why young people are excluded, exploring the opportunities, potential risks, and also seeing the country approaches by doing, which we did, surveys, and to get the country's experiences to put forward in our report. So all developing and developed countries can benefit from. Among the reasons why the youth financially excluded, we found out that the lack of access to digital tools and infrastructure. So they might have access to their mobile phones, which is great opportunities to advance financial inclusion through digitization, especially for the youth. However, from the supply side, it needed an infrastructure to develop a platform to offer these financial services digitally. Among the other reasons is the fact that there is usually a low level of financial literacy among young people. This is due to the lack of financial education on raising the awareness and the importance of financial system.
Yeah, excuse me, Saud, can I just, for the sake of time, ask you to try to take the next 5 minutes, if you could just hit your message, and so that we can start taking the questions and answers, please. Thank you so much.
Sure. This was basically for the youth. However, the other areas on women, we also identified, we saw the statistics. We saw how women financial inclusion is important globally, and it's extremely important to have all resilient economies, but also to have it inclusive. So women was another segment that we paid much attention to, given that we can do, we can have and enable inclusive digital financial payment services to contribute gender equality with the current technologies that are offered or we can leverage from. Finally, SMEs is among the mostly affected segments of businesses, as they, especially in developing countries, we can see that there is a significant financing gap that is approximately 4.5 trillion annually, and it has a great economic impact on many on the global economy, given that SMEs are considered as a backbone of any economy, as the consists of the most number of the operating businesses. So that was basically just a quick view of our work in the G20 finance track, and I have focused on the financial inclusion part. So I hope that I have given you something that will add to your knowledge, and I'm happy to have any of your questions. That's it. Over to you, Mr. Saud.
Thank you so much, Saud. Thank you so much. It is such a very rich professional life in such a very short time for a very successful and very brilliant young leader whom we are very proud of. Now, to probably give some time to the participants if they would like to think of any question and then write it over here in the chat, let me ask you, Saud, is there any specific 1, 2, 3 advice or tips which you could give to our students at Yamamah so that they can land themselves the position or the job that they have been dreaming of, or to find opportunity in the financial sector? Is it very easy? It looks like now everything is moving in a very fast direction with all the projects that we can see in Saudi Arabia, of course, thanks to Vision 2030, and also as being part of this global big community of the G20. Let me summarize that again. What can you advise your brothers and sisters, your colleagues at Yamamah, the students, the senior students who are up to graduate this year, inshallah, to get themselves ready, capably and successfully to work in the financial sector?
Well, I think there is no like magic word to say, but I think it's different from everyone in his experience or his career. I like to think about myself. I'm just starting my career, and for me, the thing that I've been always focusing on and always reminding myself on is that the fact that believing in yourself is the key. Believing in yourself is key to success, as without self-confidence, you might never get to unleash your true potential. Always say yes, always say I can, because confidence and experience is what makes you stand out and thrive. So I think believing in yourself is the most important thing, because you might have all of the knowledge, you might have like worked hard on your college career, and you have accumulated all the information, but if you lack the confidence, it's difficult, and I think it will hinder achieving or seeing what you can do in real life.
Thank you, Saud. And again, I would like to encourage our students. All right, so you have a question here from Ms. Fatima Al-Kaf. She says, what are the things I should focus on while I am in university that are important and will benefit after the university?
Well, I think first of all is try to take the initiative, try to be active. The one thing that maybe I learned in university, and which I partially did, but I thought and I wanted to do more of, is to engage more in the extracurricular activities. I'm not talking about the sports and the physical activities. I'm talking about the debates that the countries will have, the university will have, the international participation, having the opportunity to represent or to work on an article or a research, even if it was a few pages, because it's always something that you can learn from. But most importantly, put yourself out there. This is what I would say: put yourself out there, do your presentation, do a lot of presentations, because this what will increase your confidence, and this is what you will basically need the most in your career.
Okay, here's a second question from Mr. Yazid Falata. He's saying, what are the things or skills needed that will increase my opportunities to become a financial analyst? What skills does he need to be a financial analyst? What does he? What would you advise him to focus on as a student now to prepare himself to be a financial analyst?
I think this is something that maybe I'm not it's mostly a math. As a financial analyst, you need to, because what you have in the university now, what you have in your curriculum will cover, if you are majoring in finance, it will cover, it will have all the ratios, all the tools that you need as a financial analyst. So Of course, and when you get to your job, you will not be tested on. You have the basic background. But if you want to add more, is maybe try to formalize yourself and read more in the financial accounting part, because as a financial analyst, you will take raw numbers from the accountant. So it would be better if you knew what is reflected in these numbers before you analyze them. I think this is maybe one thing that you need.
Yes, and probably just to get things a little bit more focused, and I'm hoping that some other students will also write their questions if they're just thinking about a question to put to you here. I'm going to wear my cap now as a teacher, and then I'm going to also highlight what you have said about two very important things: extracurricular activities and presentation skills. These are two extremely important things that I advise, and I echo your advice, every student to focus on greatly, because once you apply for a job and they ask you for experience and you are just a fresh graduate, you don't have professional experience, but you can just still put your record of all the initiatives, all the extracurricular activities locally, regionally, and internationally, in addition to your strong communication skills. I wonder if more students have other questions. Any book you suggest? Here's Ms. Shahad Al-Daw, I think her name. She's asking any book you suggest. So if you could just advise on some reading list, 1, 2, 3 titles, or I don't know, journals or websites, which you advise.
I think, yeah, this is something that I thank him for his question, and he reminded me that it's important. I was gonna mention it before we get into this session, is that you need to read like the journals, the Financial Times. You need to read The Economist. You don't have to, when you read it, you might get many terminology of things that you don't know. But if you read one article a day, you can like take this article, break it down, try to understand, and you would know all of what's happening in the global economy. So you are more cultured when you stay and get to and interact with people, but it will help you in your work. In terms of books, I have one book that I would highly recommend. Is A Walk Down Wall Street. I think it's one of the Random Walk Down Wall Street. It's one of the like interesting books if you are interested in investment.
Great. All right. Here's another question that says, I think it has to do with the role of Saudi Arabia. Thanks a lot. What are Saudi Arabia's national benefiting from the financial, from the financial steam? I don't exactly understand what the question is, but I would interpret it in this way, like what would Saudi Arabia benefit from being a member of the G20 or from leading the G20 summit this year?
I think there are a lot of opportunities, and frankly, I think this year presidency is one of the major G20 presidency, if not the mostly outstanding presidency, given the extraordinary events that we are currently involved in with the COVID pandemic hitting, and the Saudi Arabia's response to the pandemic, whether in addressing the health issues or whether in addressing the financial and economical issues. It made Saudi Arabia lead as a leading country, and this is not me saying, but this is what the global economy leaders, newspapers, and all the press are saying, that the Saudi presidency is leading when it comes to the recovery from and the mitigating and recovery from the COVID pandemic.
Okay. I wonder if we have any more questions to take. I would like to ask you a quick question. If you could just tell us quickly, what is your routine at work? Like when you get to your office at 8 o'clock in the morning at the G20 presidency headquarters, what will you be involved in? What tasks will you be focused on? Do you have a lot of meetings? What is your day at work looks like? And here's one more question from Mr. Muhammad Albarrak, says, what is your advice for someone who wants to shift to financial industry? So if you could quickly take my first question and then take the second question about your advice to shift to financial industry.
Sure. Starting with your question, As'ad, basically what I do is first thing is, as my role as a policy advisor, is to be vigilant to all of the global news, to read what's happening, and then this is what I do in the morning with my coffee, drinking my coffee, and then I get to the day-to-day tasks, which involves a lot of research, a lot of building up of policy areas that what we are already adopted and our priorities in financial inclusion, and try to basically now we have 3 public documents, one for youth, one for women. Stage in terms of the agenda for the next 3 years, work of financial inclusion. The buildup of these reports is what I actually mostly involved in on the day-to-day activities, and engaging with the international partners and with G20 countries to make sure that what we are delivering is consistent with what they want, and we get the consensus of it.
Right. And for the other question from Mr. Muhammad Albarrak, what is your advice for someone who wants to shift to financial industry?
Well, I think it's never too late. I think the financial industry, and worked with like during my time in the banking industry, I had many colleagues that had different majors, but mostly you can get your information elsewhere. But if you feel like you need credentials to like get the opportunity to get an interview in in a bank or in a financial institution, you might consider like having pursuing a degree, maybe an MBA or something with a concentration in finance or economy.
Okay, so here's another very interesting question about SMEs from Mr. Abdulaziz bin Shaman. He says, if you dealt with SME, small and medium enterprises, do you think that they are capable of dealing with their financial activities, and are they capable of analyzing their financial situations?
Thank you, Abdulaziz, for this interesting question. For the matter of the fact, like it looks like he knew what I was going to talk about, but I didn't get the chance to because of the like limited time that unfortunately we have. But this is one of the things that SMEs they need different attention that big corporates. They might have like problems analyzing their financial activities, and usually banks take this for granted. So when an SME, small medium enterprise, goes into the bank, they are requesting for a loan, they would directly assume that they don't have the appropriate financials, and their credit scoring wouldn't be suitable for them to lend. So here we need to implement policies, and we need to have an ecosystem that helps SMEs in developing their capacities in terms of how they can deal with their operations. One of the main things that we have in our report, which is advancing SMEs digital financial inclusion, which I invite you to read on the GBFI website, is focusing on digitization of the SMEs themselves, on their operations, on their financial statements, on their payroll and their activities. So I think this is a valid point.
Thank you so much. I wonder if we have any further questions before we close down our session. If you have a question, please go ahead. We still have a couple more minutes to accommodate some 1 or 2 last questions. Let me ask you, so would you advise the students to take any training courses which are available here? Are you familiar with any special training courses or certificates or diplomas that finance graduates can study or prepare while waiting to get a job in a bank or in an organization? You know, sometimes it takes a few months for somebody to get an offer or actually to start their work. This time can be used to further one's skills. So is there anything that you're familiar with which you would recommend?
I think there are many professional, I would say, certificates that a person can get, especially in the field of business. Like you have in project management, there is the PMP, and we have in finance, there is the FRM if you are interested in financial risk management. There is also the CFA if you are interested in financial analysis. And there is a CPA if you are into accounting. You don't have to pressure yourself into getting these professional certificates, but studying for them and getting into courses that are available, you can find them online, which will prepare you for these professional certificates is by itself very important and will add to your knowledge before getting into your professional career.
Great. Here's one question, and I believe that this can be our last question for this session. So this is Miss Yara. She says, do you think that finance is a great major for the future and Vision 2030? I believe it's a very beautiful question.
I would say أنا شهادتي مجروحة بتكون, but I would say definitely. We can see, like in the Vision 2030 is one of the most important pillars, and the national programs is developing the financial sector. We have a new area in finance that's very exciting, and it's even becoming a cliche, which is fintech and the financial technologies. But it's something that very futuristic, and yet it's adapted now. We can see in the daily applications that we do now, we interact with finance, how it's highly technological and digitized. So I think finance goes hand to hand with the 2030 vision, and it should be, anyone should consider it as one of the very attractive options.
Okay, and very quickly, Mr. or Ms. Shahad, although she asks again, any useful website to learn more about financial management and financial analysis?
Well, there are actually different websites, but if you can go into the international organizations that I've mentioned, like the World Bank, the IMF, the OECD, they produce reports that track and monitor the policies that the G20 also, one of the institutions, one of the platforms that is offering it. So also there are other websites that like Investopedia, Yahoo Finance, Market Watch. These among the websites that I watch. But go into international organizations and see their publications. They are very useful, and I invite you to go to the gbfi.org website, and you will have our work in the finance track in the G20 Saudi presidency in terms of financial inclusion.
You see, the moment you say that we are closing down and we're coming to the end, that makes people come up with questions, because it looks like they find a lot of benefit in what you are presenting them, and this is exactly why we are here for. Okay, let's give another 2 questions, give a quick shot. Mr. Khalid Al-Ghanim says, where do you see fintech horizon could reach in Saudi Arabia? What is the new horizon for fintech here in Saudi?
I think coming from SAMA, the Saudi, the Saudi Arabian Monetary Authority, which is the Central Bank of Saudi Arabia, we are paying close attention to the new financial technologies, and we see many initiatives happening in Saudi Arabia, and we are a testament of it. as a priority, we literally focus on digital finance, financial services, in terms, at least to my work, and it is a flagship across the G20 priorities. But in Saudi Arabia, we have dedicated departments and people working on not only the regulatory side, which is very important. People are working on regulatory and the supervisory side to set the right ecosystem to enjoy the new financial technologies, but to be aware of the risks. We have also Saudi FinTech, which is one of the like promoters of financial services, and that encourages fintechs to flourish.
Thank you so much. And this, I'm going to take this as the last question, Saud. Ms. Ibtisam Al-Ghamdi says, for accounting graduates who still haven't started cooperative training, when they get opportunity in the financial sector, is it a good opportunity for them?
Yeah, definitely. I think it's any opportunity is should be considered and should be analyzed. So when you get your options for the co-op, you should analyze them. But I would recommend that it might not be always the situation, but if you get the chance to work on your core business, so if you are the core business, for example, if you are an accountant and you work in EY, this is the core business. If you are a finance graduate, but let's say you work in a company that is focusing on shipment, this is you are being support. So if you are working in finance, maybe it's better to work on your core business, like in banking and accounting. It's the same.
Great. Well, I would like here at this point to say thank you so much, Saud, for this beautiful speech and the inspiration that you have given to our students at university. I would also like to thank everybody who has joined us in this meeting, and I hope that you have found what Al-Yamamah is for, listening to Saud and watching his success story over these few years since he graduated from the university, and the determination and dedication that he has for his future to build up his career in full service of the Vision 2030 in the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. Saud, I wish you all the best. I am very proud of you. You are Al-Yamamah pride, and we are very much thankful to your participation, and we wish to see you in the best positions or places which you dream of, because you are representing the true spirit of our university, you and all the graduates who are building successful careers and building the bright future of Saudi Arabia. I would like again to thank all our participants, and I would like you to stay tuned, because we are running these events on bi-weekly basis. So once you get our announcement, please join in, and we wish everybody all success. Thank you very much, and we'll see you in 2 weeks, inshallah. Assalamu alaikum.
Thank you.
Thank you.